No one ever sees me. I'm losing every battle. Can somebody save me? I'm losing every battle.
Welcome to Battle2be, the Trauma Transformation Podcast. Tonight, we are live with Julee Winterbourne, and she is a fantastic artist. But not only that, she's also a healer, and she facilitates these amazing sessions that I'm going to let her tell you about, but I'm going to tell you that I got to have one of these sessions, and if you get the opportunity, it's something that everyone should try to do. Everyone should explore. Everyone should experience. It is fun. It is liberating. And there is a essential healing quality to touching your inner child that comes out. And she just facilitates this beautiful experience so well. So I'm going to have Julee tell us a little bit about who she is just as a normal person and what things she likes to do, and about her family a little bit, and say hello.
Well, thank you. I don't know about terribly normal, but I'll do my best to kind of show up, appropriately. So thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here with you this evening and excited to have a conversation with you about this. So first of all, thank you very much. Second of all, let's see, who am I? My name is Julee Winterbourne, and I am a native of Northern California, I'm a fifth generation Californian, so I'm a born weirdo. And that comes through in the work that I get to do. My day-to-day life, I'm a mom to one teenage child who is 17.795 years old, going on 35. I get advice from her all the time. It's neat. And I have a giant mixed breed German Shepherdish dog. And we live here in Northern California and have a lot of fun. And I get to do this wonderful work that I enjoy. You guys are seeing some of my paintings behind me. Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell, in a tiny nutshell.
Oh, we love dog people. Most of my, it is so funny. All of my clientele, my military, my police officers, I think at least 80%, and that's a total guess, they've got to be dog people. It's so funny.
I think there's definitely a difference. My child who gives me advice, she's a cat person. And let me tell you, we're wildly different. Like, I will greet you and hugs and, super outgoing. And she's the let me stay in my room and read a book type, so she's definitely more of a cat person. We have both. But yeah, definitely a dog person. I don't think I've ever there was maybe a couple of years in there where I did not have a dog in my whole entire life. Born into a house with dogs, and we've had dogs forever. So good. I'm in good company.
That's me too. I've had dogs all my life, just except for a very short period of time without them. And when you don't have them, you miss them.
Oh my gosh, desperately.
So this is a trauma transformation podcast. So I always like to know, what is your journey story? What brought you to the place that you are? Because most healers, they have a story. There's a reason that you feel the need to be there for other people. So give us a little bit of background on what brought you into the healing work.
100%. Yeah, I am perpetually creating what I need. When I need something, I create it and I make it for others because I want it. And I figure if I need it, then other people must also. I am a survivor of multiple complex traumas. Starting from very early childhood, going right on up. I was thinking about this today. I was like, I didn't maybe have any childhood trauma when I was maybe in like 4th or 5th grade. And I was like, oh, wait, no, I got to actually testify against a school teacher who was my school teacher when I was that age. So, all joking aside, there's been trauma throughout my whole history. And when I look at the matrilineal lineage of our family, the women have endured much. And then I even look back further into my DNA, and a couple of interesting things about that are, first of all, I am a direct descendant of the notorious bad guy Jesse James, and not even joking, it says it on my 23andMe report, and mostly English and Scottish, but going all the way back to Viking people. So if you can imagine everything that's been endured in the history of that line, it's a lot. But the thing that I think is really neat is that when you heal yourself, you heal everybody that came before you. And so I've spent this lifetime on this journey. I sometimes call myself a mystic, always seeking that spiritual nugget, that thing that's going to kind of turn the key and let me loose. And I'll tell you one thing that brings me sort of into this time in a more specific way. I'm sort of kind of brushing over history, but bringing it into kind of this time. The way I came to this work that I'm doing now is I was actually a very young mother. I had a little girl when I was just 19 years old, and unfortunately she died from crib death or SIDS. She died, I had just turned 20 years old, and I came from a family of people that they weren't really into that whole healing thing, and they were not very resourced. We didn't talk about our feelings because, you don't talk about the feelings. Like, I know my papa was in the Navy in World War II, and we're never allowed to talk about it. That was just something. And then my dad who raised me, he was in Korea. We don't talk about it. He's missing a leg, but we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? So when I was 20, grieving the loss of a child, I didn't have the resources. I didn't know what to do. So I tried sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which sounds fun and very American. But guess what? After 3 years of having my face, being face down in a plate of cocaine, my arms were still aching. I still didn't have that baby to hold. And the truth was, I was a mess. I had looked for healing in all kinds of places, including I got married very young. That didn't work out. That guy was growing weed in the other room. I had no idea. I'm laughing about it now, but it was intense at the time. But when I think hindsight being 2020, I look back and I was just so innocent and clueless, and just thought that I would just keep going, and it wasn't working. I was a freaking disaster. I weighed about 88 pounds, and I was a grown up. I weighed 88 pounds, and I was just sick from doing all the drugs that I had done. And one day I was out in my backyard and I was watering my flowers, and all of a sudden I got this this message, this download that was telling me, pull out a folding table. And I was like, a folding table. All right. So I pulled out a folding table. I'm just listening. I'm like, I don't know where these ideas are coming from, but all right, why not? I was like, am I high still? No, I didn't think I was still high, but God only knows what was happening, right? And it was, the voice was also like, you need to go and get a bucket of water, not just a little water, a whole bucket. So I went rummaging around the garage, and I found a 5-gallon old bucket. And filled it up with water. And I found a paintbrush, the kind of paintbrushes that you use for painting the trim on your house, like a wide paintbrush, and some crappy old drugstore watercolors. And I found this massive paper. I was a crafter at the time, but I did not think of myself as an artist. I would call myself an artist. I would put air quotes around it. I'm an artist. And I went out to the backyard and I put these things together. And I remember standing there. I can still feel that warm September sun on my shoulders, and my feet were dug into the sand, lawn on the ground. And I just started painting. I was pulling water out of that bucket and putting it on the big paper, and putting my brush into the colors and swirling it into water. And I don't know if you've ever I know you do some artwork. And so, when watercolors meet water, they kind of swirl around. And I was fascinated. And suddenly I was just extremely present. Suddenly I was watching the colors and getting another color and bringing it in, and getting another color and bringing it in. And all of a sudden I felt this ka-chunk. I felt myself come back into my body. I don't know that I had ever been fully in my body in my whole entire life. And it was just this feeling of being entirely present. And I was bawling and painting and ripping off a piece of paper, throwing it into the lawn and going again. And there's this one whole part of me that was thinking, like, who do you think you are? You're not an artist. You don't get to do this. You don't know how to mix colors, right? And the other part of me was like, don't stop. You need this. You deserve this. This is your birthright. And in a way, it's like that baby handed me these tools, these gifts. This little angel was like, this is what you get to do. And I just kept painting and painting and painting. It was like the paper was receiving all of my grief and handing me back this healing. It was this reciprocity that was happening there. And throughout time, that was 30 years ago, darn near 30 years ago. And throughout the history of me, I've gone back to this process and used this for healing, for, those times that I've been literally down on my knees and like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, oh yeah, paint, get out the colors. And I've gotten to the point where I paint really big now. I'm tiny. I'm only 5'3". I'm barely 5'3", but I paint these paintings that are immense. And I need to move my body to move the trauma out, to physically move the trauma out. And it's not about making pretty pictures. It's not about the product that I want to create. It's about the process of doing the work of healing and letting that trauma leave my body and not be stuck inside of my physicality. So, that's kind of the origin story of how I go from being, what I would call garbage child, the unwanted garbage child, to the pregnant teenager, to the grieving and healing young mom, to where I am now.
And your intuition tapped into something that science is just starting to recognize, that connection to trauma having to be released in the body as well as the mind, that somatic connection. And I work that way too, that my clients can't get where they need to go by just working on the mindset, by just working on the process, going through the memories and fixing that. Is that it's a physical process too. It's in our DNA. And sounds like you're a big transgenerational trauma believer too. So yes, we are soul sisters.
We are, totally. Well, and I always have said this thing about, like, I would make a joke because, girl, can I tell you how much therapy I've been to? I have been to so much therapy, so many different kinds of therapy. I've been to group therapy, individual therapy, institutionalized therapy. I've like laid on the floor and cried and tried to do the whole rebirthing process. Like, I've done all of that. So my joke would always be, the issues are in the tissues, as in, like, we're crying and blowing our noses and the tissues, like the issues are in the, but really I meant like the issues are in our actual tissues, right? So it's a little bit of both. And I like to be a little bit funny about that, because I feel like bringing levity to this is also helpful. It also reminds us, like, when we can be a little bit funny about it, like, we're not in this alone. As many souls as I know, I don't know any that are like, oh, I'm trauma-free. Like, if the worst thing you've ever been through is a car accident, that's still trauma. And God bless you if that's the worst thing you've ever been through. I mean, that's still gnarly. But yeah.
Yeah. I have a theory that every single person suffers from trauma reactivity. And I look at trauma as, traumas are razor blades, and a razor blade can cut you and that cut can kill you. A razor blade can cut you and that cut can be, emergency room worthy. But also that razor blade can barely nick you over and over and over again. But no matter how tiny that nick is, it always leaves a scar. Razor blades are notorious for that. No matter how tiny that is, it always leaves a scar. And that's the way trauma is. It's the life that we live. It's 1,000 tiny cuts, all of these microaggressions, all of these tiny experiences that we don't even see or perceive as trauma, reinforce beliefs that we hold about ourselves, reinforce previous experiences, and it just adds up to something that we don't even notice on the surface. So trauma work is absolutely for every single person, whether you recognize that you've had trauma or not. And especially coming at it from a physical perspective like you do, this is like every single person who does a session with you is going to experience something releasing. And that's going to come from a repressed place, which probably is trauma-based. Not necessarily always, but something will release.
Well, and I was also thinking about this, Krista, is that if I don't heal myself, I spill my trauma responses onto my little girl. And then she has children, then she spills them onto hers. And so that trauma can still be impactful. That same razor blade cut, if the little girl always has to grow up seeing that there's that cut on my mom, there's still that question of how did that get there? That's still their own, like you said, microaggression, or these smaller things that happen. Like my child has not endured things that I have endured. We made sure of that. Thank God to this point, she's 17 and a half years old. She's going to college in a minute. So Lord only knows what's going to happen once she gets out into the big wide world, and hopefully nothing ever happens to her. And because she's been well equipped and is extremely resourced, hopefully she's as safe as you can make a small person, a young person. But that generational trauma is very real. And it spills down from one generation onto the next, onto the next. And if we don't heal ourselves, because I think a lot of times people think like doing this kind of therapeutic type work is selfish. And I'm like, no, girl, you got to do this work. No, sweetheart, everyone needs to do this work. I work with men and women. And if we aren't doing our work, we are likely to spill our own pain onto our own offspring, whatever that happens to be. Even if our offspring is our work, if we're writers, if we're authors of any kind, if we're creating any kind of creation in the world, anything that you're creating is your offspring, right? And no matter what, it's all impacted by your perception. And if you don't heal yourself, you're bringing that trauma to life in these various different ways. So I just think it's super important. And I do think that a little, like, I like to call it navel gazing, a little like introspection is critical for all human beings. That's just me. I'm a therapy. What can I say?
So we've been alluding to what you do a little bit, and we've talked about, a session and how amazing they are and what that everybody should do it. But tell us a little bit about what that entails. What does a session with you look like?
Well, first of all, I have a program. I have various programs, but no matter what, I do the same thing every single time, whether it's one-on-one with people, if it's in person, if it's online, because I have clients around the world. I do the exact same thing every time. And I take people through a journey that I call the arc of transformation. And the arc of transformation is just a very direct path that we take every single time. We move through these 7 pillars. And the pillars just hold us as a container, a thematic container. So every week or every month, whatever it is that we work together, they all have a theme. So I help to move people through basically discovery to celebration. Let's just use those as general terms. But every single time we do the exact same thing. We drop into meditation, which I intuit. I ask my clients to work from their intuition. I also work from my intuition. So I do an intuited, guided meditation where it's mostly just like breath and body awareness and being embodied, because that's where I think like that's how we do the work, right? We got to get into the body. So we come into the breath and body and get really grounded. And then from there, we do a little bit of journaling. I write these journal prompts. Again, like if I have one-on-one clients, they're specific to their needs. I've got clients that have been through war and who have been significantly, like almost killed in the line of duty, who are overcoming just so much trauma, even in their 50s, still attempting to come through that trauma. And so I'll write journal prompts specifically to those people. And then if I work in a group and we're working on a different kind of sector of the population, maybe we're working with burned out executives or overwhelmed moms, But there's journal prompts. So we do meditation, then journaling. And then from the journaling, we go into this intuitive painting process. Along the way, we share a little bit just to kind of keep connecting with each other, making sure that we're still together on the journey. But the intuitive painting part is silent. There's no music. There's no chatting. There's no feedback. There's no criticism. There's no critique. It's literally just you, the substrate, the colors, and the tools. And that's the process. It's silent. It's healing. It holds you. It's really fun. I like to do it. It's just fun to screw around with the colors, quite frankly. Some of my favorite tools are these things. So it's pretty cheap. You know, as long as I have them, I can use them. And yeah, I don't like to even be constrained to just one thing. I work with paint a lot, but I work with inks and crayons and colored markers and colored pencils. I work with little kids and let them work with whatever they want to work with. Pretty much grown-ups, I do the same thing, let them work with whatever they want to work with. But I like to make it really accessible and just fun. It's not about making a pretty picture, like I was saying earlier. It's just really about listening, about tuning in. And that's why we stay quiet, so that you can continue to hear that inner knowledge keeper, that inner wisdom keeper. Because what we're truly doing is we're rebuilding self-trust. We're coming back inside, listening. Oh, okay, let me follow this. Taking that instruction, even if it seems weird, even if I don't really like, my intuition messes with me all the time. She's like, we're going to paint with yellow. I'm like, I hate yellow. She's like, yep, we're painting with yellow. But there's something that it like brings something out in me where I'm resistant and I'm like, fine. And then I do it. And then I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of nice. And so it's that trust. And when I follow my intuition, it's never a critical voice, by the way. Intuition is not a nasty little mean voice that says critical, shitty things to you. Can I say the S word? Yeah. It's not about that. It's always about the cheerleading, the voice that's encouraging and following that. And then when I follow that, I always come out with something I totally dig, even if it's just a message or an opportunity to keep moving my body. Yesterday I was painting and my body just wanted to do this back and forth, and I was working really big and I wanted to like rock my body. And I was like, okay, this is what we're doing today. And I was working with just 3 colors, orange, yellow, and white. God knows why, because yellow always has to be there. And I worked it out. And in the end, I ended up with this really interesting sort of landscape. And I was like, wow, that was a cool experience. Thank you, me. And there's something about following that intuition that makes you feel like you enjoy hearing yourself, you enjoy your own ideas. There's a pleasure that comes from that I think is sometimes something that we seek in all kinds of external ways, shopping and gambling, drinking, or whatever, right? Like people use these different things to make themselves feel good. And when you can use your own just self-trust and inner guidance, there's something really magical feeling about that. And that's the transformation. It's simple. And that's why I call it tiny transformations, you know, the little miniature kind of sessions that I do, like what I did with you. I just call them tiny transformations because we're going to have just this moment. And at the end of it, you're going to feel lighter. And it's a whole journey, even within a 45-minute, even with the 45-minute session that we did, you know, it's just a moment, but it feels really good. So does that answer the question? Did I say all the things?
I think it was a beautiful answer. And I think you've tapped in your own way, you've tapped into all of these psychological truths, but you've done it in a way that's really accessible to everybody. And I appreciate that about you so much, that you've taken this concept of, okay, well, we have to do mind body. Well, you made it so people don't have to think about that. And then that moment of silence, how important is silence? We distract ourselves constantly all the time because we can't listen to ourselves, because we're not comfortable with ourselves. We don't take those moments to get to know ourselves. And you've given people a tool for getting their body engaged and distracting themselves in themselves in a positive way that's inevitable that they're connected. Like they have to connect with themselves, but they're still distracted enough that they're not super uncomfortable with that. So your approach to taking the silence and giving tools to it is so beautiful. And I think that's one of your magic tricks, like how it's so successful that anyone who does it is going to have that moment, is going to have a connection, is going to come up with a good result, even if they're like, I'm not an artist, or I'm not comfortable with this, or whoa, this is weird, or no matter how they come into it, there's something to be had, something to be received in. Like, I am not a big advocate of most people that I have on the show. I will tell people, you know, do your research, find out about this person, how you feel about them. But this method that you're using, I'm all in. I'm just like, if you are interested or curious, see Julie, because I have no caution flags on this process whatsoever. I don't see any possibility for a bad experience.
You're so awesome. I appreciate that. You're giving me chills. It's such an honor to have done this work with you, for you to see it, because, you know, I like to say I glitter on shit for a living, right? You actually are doing the science part. And I'm over here listening and listening and listening, and 30 years of listening, you know, maybe I get something on a different kind of a level, but knowing that there are other people out there holding the science and looking at it and going, oh no, this is a real thing. It's an honor to have people validate me in that way, validate the work in that way. So thank you for that.
Safe exploration is hard to come by. There are a lot of people out there doing things that are risky and things that are unsafe and making claims that they have no business making. And you don't do any of those things. Your work is I find no faults with your work. I'm just like, yay, I love this person. So, and I'm a judgy person when it comes to especially PTSD and claims people make and things people say they can do for people. I'm like, because there is a lot of overpromising, and it's a very sensitive audience who's been burned a million times, and all they want is hope. So if you say you can give them any kind of experience, you have to back it up. So,
well, and I believe this, like I've done all kinds of different work in my life, and generally speaking, I've been public facing, meaning that I'm going to see my customers in the face. And if I say something and it doesn't come true, I am going to have to be held accountable for that. And so I like to underpromise and overdeliver. That's just sort of my thing. I like to here's the thing. I love for people to have a wonderful experience. And so I'm super conscientious about, like, what does the space smell like? Like, I use wild orange essential oils to help people feel a little bit elevated. And I like to make sure that when people come in, there's candlelight because it's warm and inviting. And I like to make sure that the studio looks really like fun and like there's stuff there, but not distracting, but like it's abundant also. Like there's a ton of paint, there's a ton of glitter, there's a million paintbrushes. I want people to feel like they're in a space that's approachable, but opulent and really abundant, because it's important to me that I'm reaching people on all of the senses. I mean, maybe I'm not suggesting that they taste the paint, because that's probably a bad idea. But we have tea, that's taste, right? But I try to hit all the senses and make sure that people feel really supported in all the ways. And I'm grateful. I do have clients who are dealing with trauma, and I will say I help soften the edge of trauma. But that if you are really dealing with trauma, you need a trauma-trained therapist. That's something I tell every client that I ever work with that has PTSD. You need a trauma-trained therapist. I will help and often work together with the therapist, which is kind of a cool collaboration when the therapist can really see what I do. And I can make sure that we're on theme and not doing anything that's counterproductive. So thank you for recognizing that. I appreciate that, Krista.
That's my favorite thing too, is when you get paired with a person who's working with a fantastic therapist, and then you can add all the layers in that they're missing in their time off. and you have that partnership going. So they go to therapy, they get something really big happens, they get to just purge, and then they go home and they're like, oh my gosh, what do I do in this off time? I've got 2 weeks now, and they can have all these alternative resources and tools to, as you said, take the edge off that downtime and help process things in different ways and get the body more engaged, because it's very rare for therapy to opt to include the somatic approach. So it's really, really fun to have those partnerships. And
it is. And also I think that a lot of people, having been like, I just literally just graduated therapy. I've like definitely left therapy before, but never had a therapist be like, and you are done. I was like, oh, I'm done? I'm all better now. She's like, you're always going to be a mess, sister. I was like, oh, okay. Well, as long as I have permission to always be a mess, then good. But the therapist that I had before that, that therapist literally just stopped working because of the pandemic and had to homeschool 3 children. And she's like, I can't really be a clinician and also educate 3 children. So, but she was like, Julie, you amaze me because you actually do your homework. Most people get so overwhelmed by life that they don't do their homework. And I feel like the intuitive painting process is a way of holding them in the homework process, if you will, because it gives them a place to process, especially if the therapist and I can agree on, hey, here's some good journal prompts, or hey, Julie, could you shove these her way or his way? Yes, I will definitely weave those in to my program. And that way we are really moving them forward, because that's the point. The point isn't to perpetually keep doing this stuff. It's to get to a point of you're done, or at least done for now.
oh, this is so funny. I got to graduate somebody today.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
Like, I did the same thing. I was like, and she's like, what comes next? I'm like, you're done. And she was like, what? And then she goes, but I'm scared. I'm like, yeah, but I'm still here. You're just not on the books anymore. You let me know in, 2 weeks, 30 days, if you need to touch base. I'm always here, but you don't have to be here every week. Like, you're done. And she's like, I didn't even realize that was a possibility. I'm like, everything we've talked about today, you're explaining how you're using your tools, how you're applying them to changing your life. Like, you're recognizing all the situations and you're applying everything you need to do. You've got this. You've got this. And she's just like, I do got this. Like, that stunned, oh my gosh, therapy ends? What?
Yeah.
Like,
what a concept.
People literally believe that this is just like, you need this every day for the rest of your life, but it's not that way. And that's not our goal. And I love that you said that, because I think a lot of people do just want clients forever, but responsible healers want you on your own, want to give you tools and resources so that you can do it on your own, so that you can stand on and solve and see the potential and the possibility and move yourself forward, knowing what we would say to you, knowing what we would give to you, and use them yourself, because we don't have to be there all the time.
No, 100%. And that's how we fill the toolbox, right? Like, I fill the toolbox through what I call journal prompts, but some of these journal prompts are, with people I work with, I do like one little part where we build ritual around your morning so that you're starting your day off in a really great way, right? Well, that becomes one of the tools in your toolbox. Is your morning ritual always going to be the same? No. But we know all the stuff you love. We know what brings you pleasure, because one of the journaling prompts is make a list of 20 things that bring you pleasure. Make a journal prompt, like 20 things that bring you joy, 20 things that uplift your spirits, whatever it is, right? And do it consistently, so that you start to notice, oh, guess what? Nature is on my list every day. So if I'm feeling kind of shitty, go outside, look up. I don't care where you are. There's a sky above you, no matter where you are. And so that's the cool thing. We fill that toolbox full of all these things that bring them pleasure, meaning they can form a ritual in their morning that includes that thing that they love, and they're holding themselves. Go back to the toolbox, look in, here's the tool I need. Let's go to work. So, yeah.
I love this. Also, we're looking at your studio, and behind you, you have a number of your pieces. Do you want to show us and tell us a little bit about each one of those?
Let's see. I can do this. All right. So I literally just tilted my laptop. Let's see. It's backwards from where I am. So if I think, here we go. All right. This guy, check this out. I actually like this guy. He's sort of everyone's favorite that I've done. He's about 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide. And I call him he because I don't know if you can see it from there, but there's half of an elephant's face. I know. So let the white parts block out the background. And like that's the ear. Goes all the way up to the top. Here's an eye, right? Oops, right. There's his eye. And you come down, here's a tusk. Wait, where's the tusk? The tusk is right here. Anyways, so what happened with this piece is that I just put it on my easel and I kept drawing symbols of things that I loved. And so you see a heart, you see some spirals, you see some flowers, you see the eyeball that I pointed out. There's an archway there, all kinds of things. And I just kept turning it and turning it and turning it. So there was no upside down or downside up to this piece. I just kept messing with it. And it's like all full of inky goodness. I don't know. It's a fun piece. So that's that piece. And then the interesting thing, if you look at it just one more time from afar, is he's got the hot side hot and the cold side cold. Do you see all the reddy orange on one side and all the bluey green and purple on the other? So that is what draws this collection together. The next one and the next one beyond that are basically that same kind of like hot side hot, cold side cold. This one holds I'm famous for doing these faces. When I'm not doing these crazy, gigantic, intuitive paintings, I do these giant faces. So that has that. But this is proof. I was teaching somebody to do intuitive painting, and she was like, I'm scared. I said, F it. Just throw some paint on there. So I had pretty much done, I had done that whole background, and I just took this gold paint and just threw it. Was on the ground. And I just threw the paint at it. And she's like, oh, what did you do? I'm like, I'm playing. And now we get to play with this. And I was saying my fingers are some of my favorite tools. These are just my fingers smushed in purple paint. Very high tech, very professional. Don't try this at home. Just kidding, of course. And then this piece, I really love this one. It didn't get more to it than just this background, but it's so many different kinds of medium. There's water, there's ink, there's heavy body acrylics, light body acrylics, metallics, lots of waters and drippies and what have you. So that's that. I'll show you two more pieces. I won't keep you on the hair forever, but these are so wildly different. Hang on, here we go. Here's the tour of my house too. Let's see, who's behind me? Here you go. So this is Lady Liberty, but she's not just of the United States, but the whole universe. She's got the planets there on her crown. So that's her. And she started out, there's a bunch of words written behind her, all these healing words that I needed to bring into my life. And then this funky little baby. I don't even know what to say about that one. She's just, it's like a phoenix, but instead of all the red and orange and whatnot, she's just walking past. The flames are all behind her. She's walking out of that. So
like a little wood sprite.
Yeah, well, a serious wood sprite. But anyways, that's some of my work. I love to work really big, like I was saying, because it just feels like I can move it out of my body. And on that Lady Liberty one, that was a body movement. Her hair was just a wiggle, a wiggle, a wiggle, a wiggle, a wiggle. And I wiggled for probably a week, wiggling some shit out. I've been painting a lot. My dad died this past fall. That was super traumatic. Didn't know he was sick until 7 days before he died. And so I've been painting that out a lot. I also like to, not just for trauma, but I like to also paint to come up with new ideas for how to help my kid through certain situations, or when I'm trying to come up with a new way of helping a client or a new program. So it's just anytime I really want to get in touch with what's going on inside, I let it come out that way. I journal a lot too, because I feel like I don't know what's up in here until I kind of pull it out. I think of the Harry Potter pensive, pulling the ideas out and sticking it into the dish. And that's kind of what I'm doing with my pencil into my journal, So that's me.
You need a gateway.
I do need a gateway. And I think that everyone does. Like, I think that it needs almost like focus, right? Like it needs because there's so much sometimes when you're overwhelmed with grief or pain or even just life, it's like, it's all there. And it's like, I need focus so I can get it out. I once heard that the brain is not meant to be a thing to hold lists, but sometimes we'll list this thing had happened, that thing had happened. I need to do this. I need to do that. And your brain swirls around that stuff. And I just think that's what's helpful to me and to the people that I've worked with. It's been pretty effective.
Well, now's the fun part. Now you get to tell everybody how they can get a hold of you and anything else that you want to say before we go.
Yeah, I actually am launching my first ever online group program, and that's starting in 2 weeks on April 29. And that's going to be a 6-week journey through the arc of transformation. And you can get a hold of me. My name, Julee Winterbourne. It's a little bit hard to spell. It's super easy to misspell, but it's just how it looks on the screen, Julee, and then Winterbourne with the Ourne, very British. And that's the same way that you find me on Facebook. That's the same way you find me on Instagram. And even my website is juleewinterbourne.com. So it's all about, I'm a Leo. So, it's all about that Leo energy, the Julee Winterbourne. So, that's how you find me. And that's I'm super excited about this upcoming program. I'm calling it Unmask Your Pleasure, because I feel like we hide behind stuff. And plus we've been wearing these freaking masks for a year plus, Get it off. Unmask your pleasure. Can I see your smiles again? Can we find your smile? I know it's under there. So, I'm really excited about that. And that's about all I have to say about that. I felt like Forrest Gump when I just said that. About that. Anyways, I'm super excited. I have actually one other thing that I would like to say that I haven't talked about very much is that I do have a program where I work with underprivileged youth. And that's really where my heart of hearts lies, is in helping those kids who are in the foster care system, kids who have aged out of the foster care system, young people who've gotten in trouble and have been in and out of juvenile detention and are even aging out of juvie. I have a special place in my heart for these kids. And it's my goal, Krista. This is my goal. My big goal is to create a nonprofit organization where it's almost like the Tom's style organization. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Tom's, the shoes. So it's buy one, give one. So for every adult, every executive, every entrepreneur, every vet that I heal, I'm helping to heal a kid who can't pay for it, who's in some kind of systemic situation where they can't pay for it. So that's my dream. So the more grownups that get healed, the more kids we can heal. And that's my big dream. Maybe in like 5 years, I'll have a nonprofit and we'll be helping heal little kids all over the place.
So funny you said the buy one, get one. That is the way that my Infinite Bliss program works as well. One tuition pays for another tuition. So for every person who registers, you pay for a vet who can't afford it or who doesn't have access to care. So again, we're on the same page.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, that's just it. I really do believe that we're all brought together on purpose, and that we're, kind of linking in arm and arm, because it's a lot easier to stand up together when we've got arms to link into. And it's a lot harder to take us apart when we are linking and holding up each other. So I do think that it's one of those things we were meant to meet each other. And I feel really honored and blessed to be here with you today.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. Again, everybody, say thank you to Julie. And if you feel compelled or drawn to her work, please do check it out. At least try one session. It is an experience worth having, even if you're like, I'm not an artist, I don't do that kind of stuff, especially for you. There is so much value to exploring new things, and creativity and play and adventure are 3 of my keys that I will teach you. So you get 3 of them all at the same time when you hit Julie up. So again, Krista Fee and Julee Winterbourne for Battle2be, the Trauma Transformation Podcast, signing out.
Ciao.